Okay, getting a lot of misses. Final probability of hits anywhere from 20 to 25%, 19%. So we're actually being very, very lucky here. Boy, that's a very, very good point defense capability. And there you go, the first of the AGM-88s running out of energy. I just don't think they're going to be able to make it anywhere. Yeah, every single one of them running out of energy and self-destructing. But oh well, chalk that one up to a lesson learned. No big deal. But luckily, I've still got my JASMs. I've still got my Storm Shadows. The idea would have been for any air defenses that could put up like a point defense against these JASMs to have been taken out in that wave. I would expect possibly these SA-11s to start to fire up. I mean, granted, these JASMs are at like 60 feet. SA-11, SA-19 is going to be a threat to the JASMs. Anything that can look down. SA-3 I don't think will be a threat. Let me see if it says here like a minimum altitude for the SA-19. Okay, these guys have fired their missiles. They're just returning to the basic station. Let me put them back on. Oh, I don't need any more ECM assets standing in. I've got the MAL DJs, my other wave of those. And the timing on that worked out a little bit. I probably could have launched these. The idea behind these MAL DJs was that they would support the seed and support the missiles. And I don't know, yeah, I guess the timing was... I probably could have waited until these were a little bit closer in. Send them in a little bit earlier so that they're like right there on their flight path as the AGM-88s are coming over them. I think that would have been, it's more of what I had in mind for them, but all in all, I can't complain about the timing of anything I've done on this mission. It's worked out about as close to anything I've ever planned in comparison to what's actually happened. So I sure can't complain. Let me put this guy back on ECM South, get him back on station. And you were standing in, I don't need you to stand in anymore. I can put you back onto ECM North. Since you've done about all the good you're going to do in support of these missiles going in, so let's see how the hits are going to work. And this one was going in against an HQ. These were going in against palaces and more HQs. Okay, gotcha. Storm Shadows, I forget what I sent the Storm Shadows in on, but yeah, either way, yeah. Okay, good hit on the National Army HQ. At least something is being successful here in the target area. Okay, that's 30mm, some kind of like a AAA point defense going up against the JASMs up to the north. Okay, Air Defense Sector HQ. Revolutionary Guard HQ, okay. Air Force HQ. And I wonder, I hadn't even considered what the effect of taking down these HQs would have on the air defenses themselves. I wonder if it wouldn't surprise me knowing the level of complexity the mission designer likes to go into. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that might have had the effect of degrading some of the response I'm going to get later on. But yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how the rest of it plays out. So I'm just down to the Storm Shadows and the AGM-88s, and then I'm going to take a break. I've been at this for a while. And now we can see a little bit more clearly in here, and yeah, again, we just don't know a whole lot about the defenses other than what's been transmitting. SA-11s, 3 SA-11 sites are up now. I thought I saw one earlier, now I've got 3. SA-19 still there, SA-3, SA-2, SA-20, this guy is still up. And I think that's what the Storm Shadows were going after. Yeah, that's right, that's exactly right. The SA-20 was allocated to the Storm Shadows, so let's hope that at least this site can get taken out. And I've still got the AGM-88s following up that are coming in from off screen right now. Up north, I've still got a Hawk, SA-3, and just a big back early warning radar, okay? Okay, and I can see that these AGM-88s are targeting fire dome radars. These are the fire control radars for the SA-11. That's perfect. That's what I wish the others had gone up against, the SA-11s. Well, and the SA-20s. Well, I wish it had been just kind of spread out amongst everything. Even these, I think, are just kind of focusing on one target, it looks like. I might need to in the future, if I do have a variety of seed targets manually allocate. I'll think about it. I'll see how these do. Okay, looks like some SA-11s made a good point defense attack on a couple of Storm Shadows. We still have at least three, I believe, going in. I've got another missile coming in from up here. I didn't see what launched it. I don't know if I have a launcher. Yeah, I stand correct. I have another SA-11 up here to the north. Boy, this is going to take a lot of planning and a lot of effort to get some additional aircraft in here. Although I still have some JASMs. I still have some good options for my second wave. I think I'll be just fine. Okay, that's one SA-11 down. This guy hopefully is coming over to retarget this other SA-11 or the SA-19 anything. Okay, Storm Shadows have hit the SA-20. Let's see, BDA is unknown at this point, but that was an impact on the SA-20, impact on some SA-16 point defenses around it, so at the very least, it rattled them around a bit, which is better than nothing. I've got one more AGM-88. Come on, just, yeah, give me one more of those SA-11s and I'll be happy. Okay, good hit on a launcher, or... no, I guess it was a miss. It missed the TACVIEW by 15 feet. The TACVIEW being the launcher. Okay, so that pretty much brings the first wave to an end. I think comparing the end state to what the situation was at the very beginning, it was pretty effective. I could have easily followed up with more assets. I could have used the JASMs that are on the remaining B-52, the JASMs that are on the remaining F-16. I think that's going to be a big part of my next push in there. That's going to include the F-15s, the Typhoons, the F-35s, and whatever, and especially the B-2s, which I need to get in there against those larger HQ bunkers. I still have plenty of fighter cover. I'm out of decoys, which concerns me, but then again, I think I can plan around that. I think I'm going to be able to make a very effective second wave, and I'm going to kind of play this patiently. I'm going to wait until I can get some of my ISR up there and see if I can scrape together a little bit of a better picture of what the air defense situation is on the ground. But I'll tell you what, since we're at sort of a natural pause, stopping point for the scenario, kind of the end of Phase 1, beginning of Phase 2, I'm going to take a few minutes to do what I normally do for a mission I'm flying in a flight sim, and that's provide a quick debrief of lessons learned and just an overview of how I think things went. Now, I'm doing this with the benefit of a lot of hindsight. This is about 2 weeks after I played the mission out. So as I was editing the video together and watching things unfold a second time, a lot of things occurred to me, plus some very good comments from the community, and the scenario designer clued me in on some things and explained a little bit more about why things went the way they did in certain cases. But I'll get to that here in just a second. But let's begin with just a quick BDA of the target area. Now, you just saw this, in fact, in the first half of this video, a lot of what I'm going to describe here, but if I go to losses and expenditures and pull up the tab with that information, of course, we did lose the one F-22 earlier in the mission, and that was totally my fault. I'll explain exactly why once we get into the sort of recap video and start to look at situations like that. But to counter that one F-22 loss, if we look at the losses on the red side, we have 4, 7, 11, 27, 34 aircraft destroyed, with one aircraft lost on our side. Granted, it was an F-22, but then again, that was totally my fault, which I'll explain here in a little bit. And what I took away from this as it played out was that I think I might have overestimated the potency of the air defenses. They had numbers, but then again, we had numbers too on our side. So I think I was a little bit too cautious when it came to the air threat, and it caused me to expend more decoys to counter the air threat than I really needed to do. But yet again, I'll get to that here in the mission replay here in just a second as well. Now, if we look at losses for buildings and air defenses on the red side, now we had a totally disastrous seed strike that threw in, let me see, how many missiles did we actually fire here? I'm thinking specifically AGM-88. So we expended 20 total AGM-88s on what turned out to be just one silly little roll in sight. I did have a reserve of AGM-88s that I was then able to employ on some SA-11s, some like real threat type SAM systems, and we managed to take out 5 of the TELRs. Those are like the little launcher and radar sort of combination. And yeah, I'll pull up the database real quick. So 5 TELRs destroyed, so that was basically 2.5 SA-11 sites taken down. And instead I took out 3 of the SA-11 LLVs, LLVs just being the launcher without the radar. So the SA-11 threat was degraded by just a handful of missiles, the ones that I just happened to have left over on those EA-18s, and just imagine what more I could have done by more judicious use of the AGM-88 against all these various air defense systems that we still have left over and we still have to deal with in Phase 2. So a little bit more on that here in just a second as well. As far as buildings, we took out 3 buildings with that combination of Jasmine and Storm Shadow that I had going in there. That was underwhelming. That's not as many as I was hoping we would take out. So that amounted to, and I can see it over here, in fact, in the message log, that was the Air Force Headquarters, Revolutionary Guard HQ, and the Air Defense Sector HQ taken out. Primary targets, that's fine, I'll take that. But for that many missiles, again, I kind of wish I had done maybe a little bit more micromanagement on how many missiles were fired at each target for that mission. But, you know, for this scenario, would be just overwhelming to try to do that with this huge force. Try to micromanage it to the point where you're acting as a pilot. That's probably a little bit beyond the scope of what I'm trying to do here, especially while describing and especially while recording it. So I feel like the entire first phase could have been a lot more effective, should have been a lot more effective, if not for a couple of little administrative mistakes I made when setting up the mission. So let me go ahead and pull up the replay real quick. And I'll start the little replay off right here. This is going to run accelerated time starting from the beginning. So I have my aircraft starting to get formed up, and I have the air picture as it was at the beginning of the scenario up here for you to see. A lot of aircraft, but then again, we have a lot of forces that are available to take care of that. And I'll have this video incidentally available if you want to watch this play out as you see it right here, except without the commentary. So now we have our decoy launched, and the idea behind these decoys was to deceive the aircraft. I didn't really expect for these decoys to survive long enough to get into the target area. And this is really my first lesson learned that I want to go over here, is that in this case, with F-22s available that can go in undetected, fire their missiles, and turn immediately away, dedicating these decoys to the aircraft as opposed to saving the decoys to deceive the air defenses in the target area might have been something I would do a little bit differently in the future. Because as I let this play out, I mean, this first wave of decoys was really, with the exception of the jammers, really kind of wasted, I think. I was expecting these fighters to more aggressively come out here and engage the decoys. That would give my F-22s a better chance of going in there and taking them out. But yeah, these fighters up here on the red side waited until the decoys got really, really close, and then at that point they started a vector on them. And it did deceive their forces, it did draw a lot of fire, it did cause a lot of confusion and chaos, but I lost a lot of the element of surprise here by waiting to commit my F-22s until the decoys, the first wave of decoys, had gotten in there and started to draw fire. So what I'm thinking is, and I'll let this play out a little bit more, if I had committed the F-22s first, had the F-22s fire their missiles, and I'll speed up a little bit so you can see the effect of the missiles, and allow this to happen first, and you can see that the immediate effect is that the red fighters turn away from the missiles and just are engulfed in utter chaos as they try to evade. I think that would have been a better opening move, and then follow up with the decoys with a little bit more emphasis on the decoys making it through, because, well, like I said, I didn't really need that much help with the air picture. I grossly overestimated the effectiveness of red air in this scenario, I do believe. Now, this is a good place to point out that I have AA-12 adders in a tail chase with these F-22s, and this isn't the one that has the F-22 shot down. But let me go back to command real quick and I'll show why I allowed or how I allowed that one F-22 to get shot down. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is something I'm going to have to go back and do to all of the missions I've built so far, and I'll do that once I get back into gameplay mode here. But if I go to the OCA Gen 5 mission, for example, the mission that the F-22s were assigned to, if I go to Mission Doctrine and look at Automatic Evasion, you can see that by default, Automatic Evasion is set to no. What I meant to do, and it was in the briefing, I read it, I just didn't do it when I was recording. I should have set Automatic Evasion to yes for all of my missions because I was not planning on micromanaging things to the point where I would see for example, see these F-18s get engaged and then provide them with an evasion path. That would have been far beyond the scope of what I was really willing to do as far as micromanagement here. And as a result, and I'll go back to the replay, as a result, whenever you see missiles being fired at my aircraft, you're going to see my aircraft just fly straight away and take no evasive action whatsoever. So that's why I lost the one F-22, totally avoidable. In fact, I believe here's the shot going in on the F-22 that takes it out right there. But totally avoidable and totally just down to an administrative error in the setup of the mission. So at this point, I've still got some decoys coming in and they're still getting engaged by these aircraft. I have pulled my F-22s out and I'm just kind of, in fact at this point I had even gotten some, I believe these were F-16s taking missile shots there. Since the element of surprise was already lost, there was no reason not to commit a few more forces in there to help out the F-22s with their offensive counter-air. I'll back up to this point because right there, as you can see outlined in the green, these are my JASMs and my Storm Shadows going in against the target. I thought these were very, very good at getting in there undetected. I don't think these aircraft, the Red Air aircraft flying over the JASMs or the Storm Shadows, maybe not these particularly since they're just sort of dodging missiles, but I don't think any of these air-to-ground missiles down at low level like that were detected. I could be wrong. I mean, granted, they were very much so detected once they got into the target area. I believe one of them, or a couple of them up north, did get shot down by a point defense system, 30mm. I didn't go back to the database and check and see exactly what that could have aligned to. That's probably something that I should do before playing this out again, but yeah, they were very, very survivable, and now we'll come back to this point. Now, this is where I have my seed aircraft going in. So right here, you can see the timing working out. This was totally intentional, and I mean that in a very, very non-sarcastic way. The intent here was for me to have the JASMs and the Storm Shadow air-to-ground missiles about here, and then follow up with a salvo of AGM-88 HARMs that would just arc into the area going over these missiles. You can see the launch right there. Now, the mistake, and the big mistake that I made right here, is that this first wave of AGM-88 anti-radiation missiles that you see going into the target area are all going against this Roland air defense system. The Roland is no threat. It's a short-range system. Knowing that it's there, I can and will go around any additional threats of that nature. But I wasted a good at least 20 AGM-88s on one target, so that was a completely ineffective seed, although I did have a couple of, I think, Storm Shadows go in, cause some damage to the SA-20 site, that primary air defense site, and then I had a second wave, I think it's this group right here, of seed aircraft that were able to fire, as you see, some AGM-88s against the Fire Dome radars, and those were the SA-11 radars that you can see, well, now they're right down here, as you can see the impact off of those AGM-88s. So that is, in a nutshell, what went on in this mission. So just to back this up a little bit and sort of complete the thought on the seed and how to set the seed missions up in the future. Now, several different ways of doing this. I didn't, in fact, need to make this a seed patrol at all. I could have just made it a dedicated strike against known air defense sites, just like I did against that SA-20. There was an SA-20 strike mission built. I could have just taken the time to build individual missions for the individual air defense sites, especially the highly capable ones, like the SA-11. I think I'm going to run into some SA-10s here eventually, according to the briefing, and deal with them that way, and I think that's what I'm going to do in Phase 2, and I have to think about now, what am I going to do to suppress these air defenses in Phase 2? I have the beginnings of a plan, including F-35s for that, but I'll just have to see. But in either case, it's going to be set up as a different type of mission. It's not just going to be a seed patrol with a big box, and I'm not going to let them prioritize their own targets because there are just too many of them in there, and I need them to take out the highest threat target before wasting a whole lot of missiles on threats that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So that is the debriefing of Phase 1 in a nutshell. I don't know how you compress like 3 hours of non-stop gameplay into 10 minutes or less, but that's my attempt, and that's it for this edition. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see the replay video I was using for the debrief here, it will be available. It's next in the playlist, so I'll see you in Phase 2. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.